Hello and welcome to episode number 185, where I'm chatting with Ayurvedic chef and culinary school owner Divya Alter about fats. We talk about the different types of fat according to Ayurveda, what are considered good fats and why they're important in the diet, and how to use these fats in cooking, their qualities and how they affect the doshas. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. I will also discuss topics like yoga, which is the sister science of Ayurveda, health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, and mindfulness practices, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to help you to connect to each other. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend that you start by listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Now, if you like the content, please subscribe to the show so the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. I've also set up a new private community away from social media on my new website, Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Now, this community provides a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, and to support each other. And I have many other perks in this community as well, so check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab in the menu. I hope you can join us. I'm looking forward to a lot more in-depth connection and conversation over there. And now, here's the show. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today I'm very happy to welcome back Divya Alter, who is a certified nutritional consultant, educator, and co-founder of Bhagavat Life, the only Ayurvedic culinary school in Manhattan. She and her husband Prentice also own Divya's Kitchen, an Ayurvedic restaurant in Manhattan. Divya is also the author of What to Eat for How You Feel, the new Ayurvedic kitchen. Welcome back to the podcast, Divya. It's great to have you here again.
Thank you for having me, Colette. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation because there's so much confusion around fats. That's what we're going to talk about today. We have been so brainwashed in previous decades to think fats are bad. So I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation today.
Yes, me too. I mean, I think the confusion comes from the different health organizations keep changing their explanation of fats. But I would like to focus today on the Ayurvedic understanding of fat, and also we'll speak about using fat from a culinary perspective as well.
Yes, absolutely. That would be great. Okay, so let's start with the different types of fat, please. If you could explain that to us first, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, sure. So Ayurveda lists 4 different categories of fat that's usable for humans. Mm-hmm. The first category is ghee. So ghee has its own category. There's different types. Yeah, I know. Yeah, because it's considered extremely medicinal, and it's used not just for cooking but also for Ayurvedic therapy and medicines and all kinds of things. And there are different types of ghee. It could be just plain ghee for cooking. There are two main types of cooking ghee, and then there are also medicated ghee, and ghee with different herbs infused into it that's used as a remedial, as a remedy. So ghee is the first category. Mm-hmm. The second category is oil. So Ayurveda describes different type of oils. Most of them come from seeds. Mm-hmm. And we'll speak a little bit about like the most common types today. Mm-hmm. And oils can be used not just for cooking, but also for topical application like massage. Mm-hmm. And then there is animal fat, which is like lard, and what was the name for the other one that I never use? Tallow.
Oh, I don't know that one.
That's like beef fat.
Okay.
So fat that comes from animals, and it's used for cooking. And then the last category, which I don't think anybody uses today, is animal fat from bone marrow.
Okay.
So these are the 4 types of fat according to Ayurveda.
Okay, yes, and ghee gets its own category because, like you said, it has such healing properties, and it has the subtle quality, which is why it's used for medical purposes as a substance to which to transport different herbs throughout the body.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Okay, so thank you for sharing that with us. And now moving on to, we have this term good fats. So let's talk about, I guess, what Ayurveda's view is on fats a little bit more, and what are considered good fats and why they're important in our diet.
Yeah, so I mean, fat plays a major role in human physiology, and especially like ghee, which comes from dairy. It's different than oil. So they have different properties, and they affect the body and support the body in different ways. But when you look at you need fat to break down the cellular wall, as you mentioned. You need good fats to nourish the brain, which is mostly fat tissue. Right. Good quality fat will also support strong bones. So when you look at the 7 tissues in the human body, the one preceding the bone tissue is the fat tissue.
Right.
So many times people who have bone problem is because they don't have good quality or quantity of fat tissue. So good fats nourish the fat tissue. So and it also, like Ayurveda speaks about the quality, one quality in the body that's one of the main reasons for good health. It's called snigdha. And snigdha is a word that's very hard to translate from Sanskrit.
Right.
Snigdha, usually it's translated as oily or unctuous. And I realized, I'm from Bulgaria, so English is not my first language. When I use the word unctuous, people even English-speaking people is like, what's unctuous?
Right. Right. It's like a lubricating effect, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So our body needs that good lubrication on the inside to function properly. Yeah. And when this lubrication goes down, then many diseases, it becomes a breeding ground for the body becomes a breeding ground for disease. So good fats help to support that snigdha lubrication quality that keeps us healthy.
Right. And not only physically, right, Divya, but mentally also. With the myelin sheet is made up a lot of fat for our nervous tissue as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Ayurveda does not support fat-free diet.
Yes.
But Ayurveda stresses tremendously on using the right fats in the right way. So I don't know if you want to get into, good and bad fats. We can also look at this from a chemistry point of view. So there are 3 main types of fat: saturated, polyunsaturated, and monounsaturated fats. So, the saturated fats are the kind of fat that not hardens, but it kind of thickens and hardens at room temperature or cold temperatures. Right. So an example for saturated fat is coconut oil or ghee. These are or the animal fats like lard and tallow. These are also saturated. So from a chemical point of view, I'm not a chemist, so it's not my passion. But the explanation is that the saturated fats have long hydrocarbon chain. So it means that they're very stable. Their bonds are very strong and stable. And this is what makes saturated fat a healthy fat. And they also usually, saturated fat have a high smoke point, which we can explain a little later. Right. So they're good for high heat cooking as well.
Very good. So that's saturated fat, solid at room temperature, long chain, very stable.
Yes. So that they're considered healthy because they're stable. Their carbon chain doesn't break down easily. And another type of healthy fat, some of them, not all of them, is monounsaturated fat. So it's mostly single bonds of hydrogen, but there is one double bond of hydrogen and carbon. So it's a mostly stable fat.
Okay.
And that's why it's considered mostly healthy. So, for example, olive oil is monounsaturated fat. Another oil is hazelnut oil or macadamia oil. Almond oil is also monounsaturated. But of these oils, we recommend the olive oil to be the best fat, monounsaturated fat for cooking.
Okay. So, yes, and we'll talk about cooking with fats later, because I know that's a big question, cooking with olive oil, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah. So we have the saturated, like ghee and coconut oil. We have the monounsaturated, like olive oil. And the worst fat for human congestion, not congestion, it causes congestion. Yes. Ingestion. is polyunsaturated fat. So these have double bonds, hydrogen and carbon, and it makes the hydrogen atoms much weaker. And it's considered less healthy. So what happens is a lot of, when you heat a polyunsaturated oil at high temperature, especially if you bring it beyond the smoke point, the molecular structure turns almost the same as plastic. And polyunsaturated fats like canola oil, vegetable oil is the most common one. Soybean or vegetable oil, corn oil, peanut oil. These are safflower oil. Sunflower oil is polyunsaturated, grapeseed oil. So when you heat them, and also especially if you reuse the oil, then especially if you use it for deep frying, which all fast food places use and reuse, they use either they usually deep fry in vegetable oil or canola oil. And what happens is it really turns almost like plastic. And I'm in the restaurant business, and I've heard colleagues say, when you go to a fast food restaurant and look at their deep frying facility, it's very hard to clean after a shift of deep frying, because it's really like plastic. And the uniforms, the aprons of the employees, sometimes they turn into flames while they're being transported to be washed, because they become combustible.
Yeah. Wow. And you can imagine what that's doing to the arteries in the body if it's clogging up and difficult to clean within the deep fat fryer.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the main reason we don't recommend polyunsaturated fats for human consumption, because that's exactly what they do. They increase bad cholesterol, and they really have a very clogging effect. It's a fat that's very hard to digest.
So if we're talking about when you're cooking these fats, when you're heating them up, it changes the molecular structure, right? So for example, with something like sunflower oil, is that okay at room temperature?
Well, let's say if you use expeller pressed unrefined sunflower oil, then it's, of course, and you don't heat it, let's say you use it in a salad dressing. That's definitely less harmful than than cooking it. So yeah, like you could use good quality sunflower oil, not the refined one, because that's the other thing, refined and unrefined oils. So then it's less harmful. The same with grapeseed oil, which is also polyunsaturated oil.
Right. So yes, always when you're purchasing oil, look for cold pressed, unrefined, organic.
Yes, except for sesame oil. So it's very interesting, and that's, Colette, that's something I recently learned in the master classes, the Dinacharya master classes that I'm taking currently. And sesame is very interesting because sesame has, I forget the chemical, but it has a chemical that kind of envelops the sesame, and it's hard for human digestion to process. So the best way to consume sesame seeds is to roast them first, like dry toast them.
Okay.
So you will see in my recipes, I always dry toast the sesame seeds before I add them to something. Or using tahini, which is the sesame butter, like you would have, it's preferred to use roasted tahini. And then, I mean, you're an Ayurvedic practitioner. I'm sure you've noticed that the massage oils, that have sesame base, they're darker color.
Yes.
And that's because the sesame oil will be better absorbed through the skin if it's slightly toasted.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So not very toasted, becomes very dark and very like pungent, very strong smelling, but the like medium toast.
Okay. So if you are buying your own cold pressed organic sesame oil, then heating it up a little bit,
you can get the unrefined, the cold pressed sesame oil, and if you want to use it for massage so your skin can absorb it better, you can just put it in a pan and on very low heat, just let it toast a little bit.
Okay.
Or just buy the Ayurvedic massage oils, and you'll skip that. The same also with mustard oil. So in Bengal, for example, in India, it's very common for people to cook with mustard oil, but you would notice that the mustard oil is slightly toasted. It's darker color. For the same reason, it just becomes easier to digest.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, that's good to know. Perfect. We covered the types of fats, right? Saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated. Yeah,
exactly. So the best fats from Ayurvedic point of view, the best fats to cook with is cultured ghee. So cultured ghee and just ghee.
Yeah.
Slightly different, because cultured ghee is derived from butter that has been churned from cultured cream. So you take the heavy cream, you culture it, it becomes like sour cream, and or the same way you make yogurt. And then you churn that cultured cream into butter, so it becomes cultured butter. So the friendly bacteria lightens the fat.
Right, as we say, it changes the quality from a heavy quality to a lighter quality.
Yeah, and ghee. So ghee is known to be the highest source of butyric acid, like food on the planet, and butyric acid is very important for supporting the friendly lining, the friendly bacteria in the lining of the gut.
Right.
And cultured ghee, I don't remember exactly, but was it like 4 times more than other ghee?
Okay.
So we at Divya's Kitchen, that's one of my main products is cultured ghee. We have a big butter churning machine. You know, we make we culture organic grass-fed cream and churn it. It's a labor of love, but it's so much lighter. It travels very easy in the body.
Okay, very good. And so cultured ghee is preferred when cooking. It's a lighter, and like you said, our microbiome recognizes it, and it's very healing for the microbiome.
Yeah, and especially healing for somebody with irritable bowel syndrome or leaky gut. It really helps seal the lining of the gut.
Okay. So cultured ghee is preferred. Other good fats for cooking with, according to Ayurveda?
So coconut oil So butter is also saturated fat. I recommend cultured butter if you want to use it, but butter is much heavier to digest, and it's more clogging because of that. I sometimes use cultured butter for baking, rarely, but butter is also good. And then the monounsaturated fats are high quality extra virgin olive oil, and then sesame oil is kind of in the middle between polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. So sesame oil is also good for cooking. And if you grew up in Bengal and you're used to Bengali diet, you grew up with mustard oil, you can use it occasionally. I personally don't like mustard. It's extremely heating. Mustard oil is very hot. So that's why I don't use it. But saturated, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, this is also modern science, right?
Exactly.
But Ayurveda takes it a step further. So it speaks about cooling and heating oils. So the metabolic effect of the fats. And that's something that modern nutrition doesn't understand yet. For example, the cooling oils, coconut oil is considered the most cooling of all oils. And because of that, it's very heavy. So for you, we don't recommend coconut oil for everyone all year round, unless you're in a tropical climate. And also, coconut oil is best in the summer for somebody, and also for people who have high pitta, high agni, like the very fiery people, they have good digestive fire. Then coconut oil is okay. Cultured ghee is good for every dosha. It's balancing for everyone. Butter probably only the high pitta, high agni people can digest butter best. Olive oil is kind of in the middle, so it's not too, it's slightly more heating than ghee, but it's not very heating. So again, it's tridoshic. And sesame oil is more on the warm side, so it's a warming oil. It's best for vata and kapha balancing. And more the cold season. So I don't really use sesame oil in the summer. And I use sesame oil occasionally. I rarely cook with sesame oil. Only if I'm making like an Asian stir fry or something like that. Like I want to have more of that type of flavor. And also I wanted to mention, because flaxseed oil and flaxseeds are very popular in America, especially. So flaxseed oil is polyunsaturated oil, and it's also the most heating of all oils. So it really increases heat in the liver. So be careful. I don't use it.
Perfect. Okay. So I would like to talk more now about using these fats in cooking, in regards smoke point, cooking with high heat, what's best for lower heats, and so on. Big one, like I said before, I forget to ask again, is the olive oil. So you mentioned using high quality extra virgin olive oil. Would you use that, cold on salads at room temperature, and like say in the summer? Would you also cook with the extra virgin olive oil? Can you explain a little bit about how to use olive oil, what type of cooking is best? Because I think there's a lot of confusion out there.
Yeah, definitely. So olive oil is pure, high quality extra virgin olive oil is extremely medicinal, and it's proven by modern science as well. Now you have to understand that there's so much olive oil in the market, and a lot of it is mixed with other polyunsaturated oils. So cheap olive oil is probably not pure.
Exactly.
That's why, I can also tell you what my favorite brands of olive oil are. But if you really want to cook with olive oil, you always use the high quality olive oil that's tested to be pure.
Because, and that's extra virgin, correct? Always using the extra virgin.
Yeah, extra virgin. So you can cook with it. And if you don't believe me, you can go to search for Professor Mary Flynn. Mary Flynn, Flynn, Mary Flynn. She is food scientist who specializes in olive oil. She's done extensive research on olive oil. She's a professor at Brown University in the United States. And she has a website with all her findings. There was a very nice podcast with her and Dr. John Douillard, who interviews her about olive oil. And she said, yes, absolutely. If it is a high quality olive oil, pure olive oil, you can cook with it because it is high in antioxidants, and the oil doesn't oxidize when you cook with it. Of course, you have to consider the smoke point. So olive oil is good for these methods of cooking, like boiling. Let's say you're making soup, you can add some olive oil to it. You can roast at lower temperature, like 375 degrees Fahrenheit. You can sprinkle some olive oil on vegetables and roast them in the oven. You can also saute. Right. So these are like lower heat cooking. I wouldn't recommend pan frying or deep frying in olive oil.
Okay.
But you can totally cook with it. So you don't have to just add it at the end of cooking or just use it for salads.
Okay, great. So sauteing, roasting in the oven, adding it to dishes while you're cooking is fine, but no high heat, like no stir frying or anything like that with the intense heat.
Yeah, so no, especially the dry heat cooking methods, like exactly stir frying, pan frying, deep frying. But any kind of heating method that has moisture, like boiling and braising, well, you can roast with it. That's a dry method. But yeah, sauteing is fine. So
okay,
just keep in mind the temperature at which you're cooking.
Okay, that's a great tip. So 375 or below Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good tip. Okay, and then some of the other oils that are good for cooking at high heat.
Yeah, so cultured ghee is the best.
Yes.
It's also very tasty. And you know, with what I love about cooking with cultured ghee also is that it's very satiating. So you're satisfied with less amount of food.
And less heaviness.
Yes, it's not heavy, and it's so delicious. And it really, when you use good oils, you get this moisturizing on the inside, so you don't get very dry skin as well.
Right. Yes, exactly. Again, that's that snigda quality, that lubrication.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And other oils that are good for high heat cooking?
Well, refined coconut oil is good. Now, refining, there's a lot of confusion about refining.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, please. I want to talk about it all because there's a lot of confusion about fat.
So what's the difference between unrefined, cold pressed, and refined oil in general? So the unrefined one, there is no heat or chemicals involved to extract the oil. Right. It's only pressure. So it's the seeds or the fruit, like coconut is a fruit. It's like it's being pressed. It has shorter shelf life. It has more nutrients, and it has much stronger scent.
Right.
But it also has lower smoke point.
Right. So that's the cold pressed, unrefined.
Yes. Yeah. So it usually has darker color, very strong flavor. Like think of raw coconut oil. Right. You really feel like you're smelling a coconut. It's very strong.
Yes.
Now the refined, most of the commercial, like the big brands, refined oils, they're refined by using heat and chemicals. And it has longer shelf life, much higher smoke point. It has neutral scent. That's why it's preferred, because, like, let's say you want to make something with refined coconut oil, you don't want your food to smell like coconut. So, but it also has less nutritive value.
Right.
But there are smaller companies that refine coconut oil through steam.
Oh.
So it's not at very high temperature.
Right.
Like I believe Nutiva.
Okay.
Nutiva is one such company. So refined coconut oil is fine as long as being refined in a more natural steam methods without chemicals.
Okay, great. And so you would want to use the refined coconut oil when cooking at higher temperatures.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, in general, when you cook especially with Ayurvedic cooking, you don't want to go beyond 400, 425 degrees. You don't want to broil.
Yes.
You don't want no charring, no barbecuing, all these very high heat. That's not healthy for anyone.
Yes. Okay, very good. And so other oils or fats that you like to use then at medium heat?
That will be sesame oil and olive oil.
Okay, great. And the sesame that you use, it says best to use toasted sesame, just to repeat that.
The medium toasted, yeah.
Medium toasted, okay.
Medium toasted sesame. It kind of has golden color. So when you melt ghee, it has this very golden color. So the medium toasted sesame oil kind of has the same color.
Okay, great. And so other oils that, other nut and seed oils that we see on the market now, we have, like you mentioned, flaxseed oil, which is very heating. You don't use it. Avocado oil. I'm sure that one not to be heated.
Yeah, avocado oil has a high smoke point, and I really want to define smoke point so that there's no confusion about that. But avocado oil has a high smoke point, and because of that, some people think it's good for cooking. And yes, but it's extremely heavy to digest. It's a very, very heavy fat. Mm-hmm. So unless you have like super strong, like a Superman digestifier, I don't think you will be able to break it down fully. Okay. So that's the only reason I personally don't use avocado oil. In my kitchen, you only find 4 oils. It's cultured ghee, high quality olive oil, sesame oil, which I rarely use, and coconut oil, which I only use in the summer. Okay, very good. Yeah, because there's so much oils on the market now. Like we see walnut oil as well. There's a lot of variety on the market. Yeah, so always think about digestion. That's the thing. Yeah. So walnut oil may be good for salad dressing. Right. If you use it in small amount, it would just for like salad, it may not be so bad. But always think about how you're digesting it, not just what it is. Exactly. And can you talk a little bit about safflower oil? I see that a lot now. I know. Well, that's a very polyunsaturated oil. And most of it is refined on the market. So, yeah. Best to steer clear then. I know a food chemist who is very big on oils, and he likes to use safflower oil. But he's not an Ayurvedic person, so I just go with the recommendations of my Ayurvedic teachers. Right. Okay. So I think the thing here as well is to get to know your brands, your trusted brands, and particularly, with choosing olive oil, and if you're looking at refined oils to use at high heat, like refined coconut oil and so on, making sure that it's a quality brand. So some research needs to be done there. And I'd love for you to share with us, Divya, if you know of good quality brands that you trust, because I think that's important. And sometimes that can be overwhelming for people. You go to the supermarket and there's so many different types. How do you narrow it down? I don't get my olive oil from the supermarket. Right. I order it online. My favorite new farm that I discovered, it's a small organic farm in California. Mm-hmm. It's called Fandango, Fandango, Fandango. Okay. And they're so cute. It's a family farm. They handpick their olives and press them and make the olive oil right away, and they'll always give you the bottling date and also the expiration date. And their olive oil is just fantastic. It's so tasty. It's a little peppery, which means it's rich in antioxidants. Mm-hmm. And it's fantastic for cooking. And, every time I get my order, they send me like a handwritten thank you note. Oh, they're really sweet. It's so nice to support small family farms like that too. Yeah. Another family farm in California, they're olive trees, so like 100 years old. Immigrants from Italy that came like a couple hundred years ago to the States, they smuggled their olive trees, and the French people smuggled their the grapevines.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And they're still going strong.
Yeah, so that farm, that's called Bariani. Bariani.
Okay.
The way you hear it, Bariani. That's another old Italian family farm in California, and their olive oil is sold in the health food stores in California, but I can't really find it in New York.
Okay.
And I mean, we have a lot of listeners in Europe, so you can look for me, the Californian olive oil is as local as it can get,
Yes.
But I'm sure you can get really good brands that are from Spain or Italy or even Greece. So you can always go and even call them and ask them, like, research the brand first, because olive oil is very medicinal when it's of high quality.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to jump in here because Divya and I are talking a lot about the qualities of the oils, whether they're heavy or heating or cooling. And these qualities, or gunas as they're called in Ayurveda, are the foundations of Ayurvedic healing. There are 10 pairs of opposites of these qualities. And this is what I talk about in detail in my Daily Habits for Holistic Health online program. It's a 28-day self-paced program. The idea is to educate you, to support you, and to help empower you to feel confident to become your own healer. I start out in this course at talking about how to structure your day to flow with the daily energy cycles or the circadian rhythms. And this is a very important part of Ayurveda, that we tune into nature rather than going against nature and suffering. I also talk about the foundations of Ayurvedic healing and these 20 pairs of opposites and how to recognize them in your day and how to use them to keep your doshas in balance and prevent disease. We also talk about the mental gunas of Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas and how to maintain positive mental health. And in this course, I also help you to connect to your true nature, to your intuition, to your inner guidance, and empower you to take charge of not only your health, but also leading a positive life in which you are happy and feeling inspired and fulfilled. If you're interested in learning more about this course, you can check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and you'll find it under the programs tab. So check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Okay, let's get back to my chat with Divya.
Coconut oil and ghee and sesame oil, they're very medicinal to apply on your skin. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when people tell me, well, sometimes people can have like very high pitta, they feel very heated, but they have low agni, their digestive fire is very low, metabolism is low. So for them to get a massage with coconut oil, we actually take down the pitta. Yes. Or you can apply coconut oil on hemorrhoids, it really helps.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or any kind of burning skin sensation. On or like a rash, like a burning, anything that's burning on your skin, coconut oil will take care of it. It's very good for fungal, any kind of fungus on your skin. Coconut oil, raw extra virgin coconut oil will take care of that. And then sesame oil, we also use it for oil pulling, right? Swishing it in the mouth, and that's very good for your gums and for your teeth.
And sunflower oil then is it's more of a neutral oil. You know, we tend to recommend sesame for vata, coconut for pitta, in regards Abhyanga oil massage. And then sunflower is a good lighter oil.
Yeah, for massage.
For kapha.
Yeah, for topicals. So you can put grapeseed oil on your skin, you know. Yeah. Almond oil is great for the skin. It's another neutral oil for massage.
Right. Hey, perfect. And let's talk about how to store these fats, because that's important too. Also, how you buy them, what type of bottles, looking at that when you're purchasing oils as well.
Yeah, this is so important. Thank you for bringing this up. Well, see, any oil, any kind of fat will go rancid when it's exposed for a long time on light and also humidity. That's why it's better to buy bottled oils that are in glass, dark bottles. They're a little, just the packaging itself is a little more expensive, but it protects the oil from oxidation.
Right, and especially if it's sitting on a supermarket shelf, you have to take that into account. How long has it been sitting there? And you definitely want to go for the darker bottle.
Yeah, exactly. And so I always store it in a cabinet. I have a cabinet with all my cooking fats, and they're in the dark and away from humidity. So don't keep it above your stove, in the cabinet above the stove.
Yes, so true.
And also you don't want them to be exposed to heat. Like, it shouldn't be very close to your oven or something like that. When I use ghee, I always use a dry spoon to scoop it out, because even a drop of water will spoil it.
Right. And then ghee can be stored out of the refrigerator.
Yeah, you don't have to refrigerate ghee.
Okay. What I'd like to talk about now is using fats for the different dosha types, and some suggestions you have in regards, cooking off spices, or if some, one dosha type requires more fat, how to add that in, some tips you have there as a chef.
Yeah, so when you look at the different dosha types or body types, you'll notice how, for example, vata tends to have more dryness. So vata predominant types, they would have drier skin, also just drier mouth, just more dryness in the body in general. That's normal, because too much air dries.
Right, and they can also have a lower body weight, lower fat percentage on the body.
Yeah, exactly. Less padding, as we call it.
Right, exactly.
So that's why vata types, and also when you feel your vata is out of balance, you feel extra cold, like you need to have extra fat, and not coconut oil, because coconut oil will cool you more, but especially ghee and olive oil and some sesame oil. So I'm more vata for sure, and I always use, no matter what the recipe says, I always use a little extra cultured ghee in my cooking.
Yeah.
And my food is it's not greasy at all, but it just feels very grounding.
Yeah, when I'm working with clients with a high vata constitution, they love ghee, love extra fat, and it's basically your body needs it.
Yeah, I mean, you feel you're kind of craving it.
Yeah.
And then so the preferred cooking fats are cultured ghee, sesame oil, and olive oil
for vata.
Yeah, a little bit of butter here and there if you can digest it, that's fine. But then for pitta, cultured ghee is considered the best. And extra virgin olive oil as well. And then for especially in the summer, coconut oil is fine. As well. Okay. And then but pitta body types, they need a little bit less fat, because the skin gets more oily. The pitta has this oily quality to it.
Yes. And
so also, they don't need as much.
Absolutely. And also that, too much oil for pitta is aggravating. And I do find that myself, and working with a high pitta constitution, there is a dislike of that extra oiliness in food.
Yeah. So they they're kind of medium, the middle way.
Yes. The middle path.
And then for kapha, kapha body types, they usually have the most snigdha, the most oilation, lubrication in their body, so they would need the least fat in cooking.
So maybe using drier cooking methods.
Exactly, yeah. And also olive oil is great for kapha balancing. Ghee, especially cultured ghee, because it's lighter, again in lesser quantity, but definitely not coconut oil. That's the worst for kapha. And some sesame oil is fine too.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to ask more cooking questions, because you are the expert, being the chef. So do the spices and herbs transport better in a particular medium? We talked about ghee earlier as being a great transporter. Yeah,
I usually use ghee. So ghee will be your best preferred oil. Some people avoid ghee because they want to be vegan, or some people lactose intolerant. But ghee doesn't really, it's almost free from lactose, especially the cultured ghee, because the lactose transforms during the culturing process. So I always tell people, you can be vegan, but at least be vegan. At least have some ghee in your diet.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially if you have a high Vata constitution, especially.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so good for you. I mean, you'll feel so much better if you include ghee in your diet, especially the cultured ghee. So ghee would be great. Otherwise, for somebody, I rarely toast spices in olive oil, but if I have to, I would do it on very low heat. It would take a little longer, or coconut oil or sesame oil.
Okay, great. And then when you're cooking, and normally you put in your fat, and then you put in your spices, and then just say you're cooking, a khichdi or soup or anything like that. So would you always cook the spices off first in the fat and then add, saute your veggies and then add the liquid? What's the best process?
Well, that's one method. There are different methods.
Right.
So
obviously I am not the expert.
No, I mean, no, that's one method, and it's a good method, but you don't have to cook everything the same way.
Right.
I like to have variety of ingredients and cooking methods. They always produce slightly different texture in the food. So if you first saute the spices and the vegetables and then add liquid, the spices they get a little more crusty, so they will kind of keep their shape a little bit more. And if you just put them in the boiling water, they will be more creamy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Those spices in ghee, in general, most spices require heat to activate their properties.
Right.
So we activate spices by toasting them, or also you can just add them to a boiling soup, and that's they activate through heat.
Okay. So as we finish up here, is there anything else that you wanted to cover, Divya, on fats that we didn't already cover?
Yeah, I wanted to come back to the smoke point.
Oh, yeah.
So by definition, the smoke point means the specific temperature at which when you heat fat, the heated fat begins to emit smoke. And you see that it's smoking and it starts to smell bad. That's the smoke point of a fat, of a cooking fat.
Right.
So if let's say you're heating some ghee to toast spices or whatever, if you see it smoking, it's bad.
So if it's smoking, it's already too late.
Yeah, it's too late. If you see it smoking, you have to throw it out and clean the pan and start again. Right. So that's very important. So make sure that you're not smoking your oils, which I see happening so much in restaurants, unfortunately.
Talk about a little bit why that is so bad, because it's changing the molecular structure of the oil.
Yeah, so what happens is the fatty acid, it lowers the fatty acid content. It makes it less stable fat.
Okay.
And it oxidizes the oil. And it releases free radical fatty acids, and it makes it like bad cholesterol. It turns into bad cholesterol.
Right. Okay.
For the body. So definitely avoid. So there are different smoke points. Like ghee has a high smoke point. It's 485 degrees. Refined coconut oil it's also higher, around 400 something degrees. Extra virgin coconut oil is a little less. It's like 350, 375.
Okay.
And high quality olive oil runs between 375 and 400 degrees. And that's the smoke point. You put it in a pan and it starts to smoke. Now, let's say I'm adding it to a soup, which has water. And water usually boils at 212 degrees, depending on what else is in the soup. So it will be, let's say, around 200 degrees boiling point. You can add olive oil to it. It's not going to smoke,
Right.
Or sometimes I would bake something that has, let's say, in my new cookbook, I have a recipe for pizza. my Ayurvedic take on pizza, and the crust is with olive oil. And I can bake the crust in 350 degrees. It's not going to burn and smoke the oil because it's mixed with flour and other moistures,
Right.
So
good point.
Yeah, a lot of people misunderstand what a smoke point is. So when the food is protected by moisture and by other ingredients, the oil is not going to smoke. But in general, we don't recommend cooking on very high heat. So that's never healthy for the protein molecules in the food. And so it's always best to cook at lower heat.
Great. Well, I think we've certainly covered lots about good fats today. And, we talked about at the start, Divya, about how there's so much confusion, but we also had so many decades of this, fat-free, no fat, low fat diets. And I think that really, that marketing really infiltrated our brains, and we're still kind of coming out of that.
Yeah, that's what I love about Ayurveda, because the Ayurvedic descriptions of fats and the reasons for us to cook with fat are still valid today.
Yeah. Yes, it didn't change. There was no fads, no trends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's really important for all of us to have good fats. We talked about the different dosha types and what's beneficial for each type. But I do think making sure that you have sufficient fats in your diet is so important.
Yeah. And you can also get them from eating nuts and avocados and things
Seeds.
like that. They're foods. Yeah, seeds. But also the cooking medium of fat is also important because it helps transport the nutrients deep into the tissues of the body, especially with cultured ghee.
Yes, so true. And I think a lot of times we're so focused on the ingredients that sometimes the fat is not thought of. It's whatever we have in the cupboard. And I think it's time that we look into what we're using, focus on good quality fats, and do a little bit of research about what brands are available to us, and what brands we trust, and stick with those ones. Yeah,
definitely. And do a little pantry inventory and smell if it smells rancid or sour or kind of it smells like it's questionable, then get rid of it. Don't use rancid fats, old fats. It's important to use fresh.
Yeah, very true.
Ingredients.
Yeah, very true. Okay, Divya, well, thank you so much for all this information on good fats. And you mentioned your cultured ghee, and I'd love for you to tell people where they can find that. I know you have a very nice little discount for listeners on their first time purchase. So you could tell people more where they can find out more about you, your offerings, the online shop, and so on.
Yes, so we have an online shop at divyaskitchen.com/shop, or you can just go to divyaskitchen.com and it's right there on the first page. We're offering you, to all of you who haven't purchased anything there yet, for your first time purchase, you're welcome to use a 15% discount. It's Elements of Ayurveda 15. And this will be also, you write this down, right?
I will put this in the show notes for everybody. Yes.
Yeah, in the show notes. Thank you. I'd love for you to try our cultured ghee. We produce it in small batches. And again, we churn our own cultured butter from organic grass-fed cream that we culture ourselves. And I think I love it. I really like it. And we also have, of course, we have our kitschy packets, and we're about to release a few new products in a couple of months. So
very exciting.
Yeah, these are just products for you to help you ease your Ayurvedic cooking at home.
Love it. Love it. And then they can check you out if they're in the New York area. You're right there in Manhattan, right? Divya's Kitchen?
Yeah, please come visit us. We're about to become 100% indoor dining, and we also have outdoor dining. We're at 50% right now, and after May 19th, we'll be allowed to have 100% indoor dining. It's very safe to dine dine with us, and our food is always fresh, seasonal, and delicious.
Yes, and you can tell by listening to Divya, there is so much love, attention, and good energy and sattva put into every part of the process of cooking. So I look forward to visiting you someday soon, Divya.
We can't wait to have you. And we use only the 4 types of fat that I mentioned. We use cultured ghee in our restaurant. No other restaurant cooks with cultured ghee because it's so expensive.
Exactly.
We use high quality olive oil and a little bit of sesame oil and coconut oil. We don't use canola oil and vegetable oil or anything else.
Well, we appreciate the effort that you're putting into not only in your food and your cooking in Divya's kitchen, but also into teaching people. You know, you're teaching people on the podcast, and you also have Bhagavat Life.
Bhagavat Life is our cooking school. We have all kinds of cooking classes. So check us out at bvtlife.com. We would love to have you for a cooking class as well.
Lovely. Okay, I will put all those links in the show notes. Divya, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing this wisdom. And I really think we clarified a lot of things today. I definitely learned some things today as well.
Yeah, me too. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Colette. It's always nice speaking with you.
Likewise. Okay, Divya, we'll talk soon. Take good care of yourself. And I'm sure you're very excited about getting 100% capacity into Divya's kitchen now. It's great to hear.
Yes, thank you.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye. What wonderful information that Divya shared with us today. And please check out all the links in the show notes for Divya's Kitchen, the shop where you can purchase all your Ayurvedic goodies, and BVT Life. All those links are there for you. And if you think that this episode may be helpful for family or friends, please share it with them and we can spread this wisdom of Ayurveda. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you'd like to leave a rating and review, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support. Don't forget about the private elements of Ayurveda community. I'll put that link in the show notes also. Until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and slán go fóill. Bye for now.